Hello folks, friends and movie lovers. Welcome back to the channel and to the latest instalment of the Movies in Review. The movie that I have to review for you all today is called The Watched, or for those of you watching from the United States of America, it's called The Watchers. Now this was a movie of some interest to me. I'm not sure that it has totally lived up to all of the hype and all of the suspense that it created for itself in the trailers. It hasn't done well at this at all because for me, as a horror movie that is age rated 15 with all the warning messages for strong horror, it was in actual fact and in all reality remarkably tame in comparison to many of the other movies that I've seen from this genre. An interesting point of comparison here would be to read the novel that this movie has been adapted from, something that I usually like to do before seeing the movie adaptation. However, on this occasion I'd never heard of the story before, so planned to read the novel in retrospect. But that is something, as I've just stated, that I would normally like to do first before seeing the movie, is to read the story. However, on this occasion the story was quite engaging enough, and I really enjoyed how inspiration has been taken from folklore and mythology. It definitely made a change that a race of cryptids took on the role of the antagonists in this movie as opposed to the usual suspects of poltergeists, demons and demonically possessed, exorcisms, and the slasher flicks that we have all become so familiar with. We have had some truly amazing movies to come out of these genres, and I do mean truly amazing. The whole slasher subgenre owes its very existence to the Halloween series of movies, which are a truly fantastic series of movies, without which we wouldn't have had the Scream series of movies, which is another truly great series of movies. And The Exorcist, starring Linda Blair as 12-year-old Regan, really was a true trailblazer for the paranormal horror subgenre. Having been adapted from a novel, The Watched is a story of Mina, played by Dakota Fanning, who takes a trip across Ireland at the request of her employer to deliver a parrot to a zoo. Along her journey, she becomes lost deep in the forest after her car broke down, where she now has to find shelter and, as she soon learns, protection from the Watchers that are stalking the group of people that she shelters with. Just as a side note here, does anyone remember Dakota Fanning as a child actor starring in the likes of Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat and the 2012 Steven Spielberg remake of The War of the Worlds, also starring Tom Cruise? Now, I personally think it's impressive how far she has come since then, and I am aware that she has gone on to have a very successful film career as an adult, with appearances in numerous other movies, including Equalizer 3, which will be the subject of another review video. That being said, the vast differences between her role in The Watched and her role in Equalizer 3 I think demonstrates how skilled, proficient and successful she has become as an actress. The differences in the role effectively demonstrates her range and her ability to take on a wide range of characters in roles avoiding the perils of being typecast. I think she was a very good fit for this movie because I can't really imagine many other actresses, or actors for that matter, that could have performed this role. That's not to say that there aren't any others that could have done it, but there aren't many. It struck me as being something similar and echoing William Golding's Lord of the Flies, because it appears to deal with many of the same themes. We begin with a civilized group under the leadership of Madeline, which quickly descends into chaos, conflicts, factionalism, and the degradation of society. The group is certainly filled with a mix of different personality types: a natural leader, a natural follower, the independently minded, and the rebellious mutineer. In wider reading for William Golding's Lord of the Flies, a question keeps coming up regarding whether it is based on or took inspiration from a social experiment. The discovery in The Watched that Madeline is in fact a member of the race of changelings, but one so gifted she can assimilate among regular humans effortlessly, leads us to wonder whether their true purpose is the use of a two-way mirror that becomes a one-way mirror at night time effectively conveys the sense that those taking shelter in the structure are being studied and experimented with like lab animals. The discovery of a secure bunker below the ground, formerly used by the real Madeline's late husband to study the changelings, only cements the idea that the mysterious structure in the middle of the forest that they are now seemingly trapped in is a place of study and experimentation. Something else that stood out about this movie is that there also appears to be a narrative of longing, acceptance and prejudice, as we discover that the changeling, Madeline, was considered an outcast among her native people for her ability to walk during the day, something that her native people now refer to as fairies can't. The thing that I don't think has been too well explained within the narrative is how the story of the changeling fairies moved from one living in harmony with humankind, falling in love and having children, to a point where a lone researcher has to place markers warning against them. That's not to say that there isn't one, but I feel there are too many questions surrounding this. We learned that they had been deprived of their wings and driven underground and confined in the forest. We also learned that the Watchers used a bunker-like structure known as the coop to better learn how to mimic human beings, all of which feeds into the narrative regarding longing, acceptance and prejudice, which we can examine in the movie from different angles. From Madeline's perspective as the outcast looking to kill and mimic a human to fit in to an entirely new community, from that of the fairies, changelings, whichever you prefer, who had lost their wings, were driven underground and confined to the forest, totally segregated from the people whom they once lived with in harmony, to people who for a few months were sheltering in the coop. With this movie, I think there is more to it than first appears, but I think it takes some effort to see it, and one has to go deep into the movie almost to the end before recognizing that. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, did the same thing, where there isn't an immediate realization how deep the movie actually goes until the end. However, for Furiosa it worked really well. Now I think it kind of worked for this one too, but being aware that it has been adapted from a novel that I have not read yet, I don't know how well it has translated across to the big screen from the novel. I actually liked the movie for what it was, and for the most part I thought it was okay. As stated earlier, I think an interesting point of comparison here would be to read the novel, whereupon I could potentially offer an update in my view, if my view changes it either way. I am aware of people that have already read the novel, some of whom liked the movie and some of who found it underwhelming. I would agree on the horror aspects of the movie in that it was remarkably tame in that regard. Alright folks, that's all for this one. Thanks for sticking around and listening to the very end. I appreciate that this one is slightly longer than others I've been posting, so thank you very much for bearing with me. Please remember, if you haven't done so already, to hit the like and subscribe buttons and the bell notification icon to receive notifications and updates on when my latest reviews get posted. Thanks once again for listening to the very end. My name is Simon, and this is the Movies in Review. Thank you for listening.